message to India?
My wife and I went on holiday this Christmas break. Best holiday we ever had. It wasn't to the golden sands of the Caribbean, or the Peace in Italy or Austria, but it was to the city of Mumbai. 4 days of bliss. Now, Mumbai, to anybody that's been there knows, biggest city in India, 20 million people. Population density, 29,000. What is that? Population density of Ireland is 65. That's 400 people for every one you see walking the street around here. It's mad. Absolutely crazy. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But that's not the purpose of my speech. We walked around and certainly we saw poverty. And we saw the princes. And in between we saw the merchants. But the one thing we did see was human beings going about their everyday, by their daily work, and not feeling sorry for themselves. And it was uplifting. And I'd like to try and pinpoint that by just briefly describing my interactions with the 3 T's. Traffic, temples, traffic and temples and trains. So first, traffic. Mumbai does have a traffic system. They do have functional red lights. The roads are marked. It's just they're not used. On my first day, my first night, we arrived 2 a.m. in the morning into my sister's the driver in the car. And we just drove. It was fantastic. Just the way I like it. Straight. Nothing coming, and even if there was, just swerve. What's the big deal? Now the day is slightly different. A little different. I have a picture of myself going up a hill. Double white lines on the wrong side of the road. No problem. Guy comes down at us. Okay. My sister says, "Turn round, Paul, there's no point looking. He will make it." Into this gap. He squeezed in. And he pushed the next fella over here. And back it went. But we survived. So, first rule, whenever you go to Mumbai, take a taxi. Get into a black beanie. Now fine, I had a bit of a hump because they are made for Indians. And they're about 30 years old. But the one thing you mustn't do is leave your elbow out the... because you won't have it if you do. Get in, drive, and enjoy. And secondly, just look out the back. There's a reason why there are no side mirrors on black beanies. There just isn't enough space for them. Don't get too upset if you're within 1 centimetre of the guy behind. They're not going to crash. Just sit back, look out the back and enjoy. And see things like in the middle of a city. Cows walking across the street. Fellas with trolleys bringing laundry in the middle of the street, pushing it on. It's bedlam, but it's just fantastic. And during the day, when the police are there and the lights are red, and some of them do stop, watch how no space is missed, no space is lost. As just cars can beep and move forward, and some guy in front of you sees a gap in the traffic and goes for it. And then there's 2 more cars into that space, and the fastest one wins. It's alive, it's vibrant, it's real, and I loved it. Then, temples. You know the way you go to a temple, and the very first one we went to was the English church to commemorate the Afghanistan campaigns. And it's there in a leafy grove, quiet, respectful, and in we went, and we looked at the walls, and we saw all the soldiers and officers who had died, and we walked out, and we made our tip, and that was that. Okay. Then you go to the Hindu temples, the Shiva temple, the Krishna temple. And the first thing you do is ring a bell, you sing, you make noise, and you watch the colour as the flowers are put over the statues. And at the Hare Krishna temple, you sang, you may as well, everybody else was. It was alive and vibrant and just life-giving. But my favourite was the Haji Ali temple, where commerce and religion interact perfectly. A 500-metre causeway with stalls the whole way along, and the items on sale getting more expensive as you got near the temple. Beautiful, but the Indians are good at that. But the best one were the beggars. Begging, as our guide told us, is not to be looked down upon, but it's simply a way of life, because even the beggars are not unemployed. And as you come out of the temple, or the Haji Ali temple, the beggars all line the causeway on the opposite side of the sellers, the hawkers. And you see, the beggars know that for any fundamental Muslims or practicing Muslims, they must give alms. So the guy up the front gets the most. Now, there is a system of rotation and donations to be made by the beggars to the priests of the temple. And I just got to think, can you imagine that in Ireland? Can you imagine Knock? You know, with parks made for wheelchairs and the priests moving them around and taking a cut. This is how it was, but it was just alive. Then trains. Oh, my favourite, my favourite, my favourite. And my wife said to me, "You're not going on those." And I said, "Well, maybe we might take one trip." "No, you're not, because you're going to want to do what they're doing." And I said, "How do you know?" I said, "I can see it. You haven't stopped looking at them the whole way. The trains were fantastic, no doors. And fellas hanging out. It was brilliant. It was just like, do you remember the old way CIE was when you could open a door? And there was nobody shouting at you, "Remain on the train and do not alight until the train has stopped moving." You can't alight anymore because the doors are locked. And here it was, a train with the doors, no doors, right? And a bar to allow you to hang out. So the first time we went on the train, there was nobody on it, so she made me sit. But the second time the train was full. So I got away. And out I got, right, on one foot at the edge, that 1 foot out, onto the bar and leaned out. Heaven. And as the train came into the platform, I waited just until I saw the platform and jumped off as it was going as fast as it possibly was coming in. It was wonderful. And the feeling I could give 2 fingers to health and safety was just... And so, my trip to India. Fine, there was poverty. Yes, there were people not as well off as all of us. But they didn't feel sorry for themselves. They were getting about their business, doing their own thing. And I felt good. I really felt good. And I felt good that they felt good about themselves. So, thank you.
Mr. President, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Paul, aren't we blessed? Paul Gannon has chosen an entertaining speaker than you. I enjoyed that speech enormously. Thank you, Paul. It was so uplifting. It was such a positive experience. You obviously enjoyed your time in Mumbai, but you shared that with us in such a fabulous way. Technically, it was brilliant. The use of the triad, the 3 T's, the structure was so clear, the use of vivid imagery, and the brilliant use of body language. We could see you acting the Mick on a train and knowing that you were enjoying yourself enormously. It was an absolutely wonderful speech, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of them. There was a slight glitch in terms of timing. There was a misunderstanding as to the length of the speech. So for that reason, Paul went slightly over the time, but he was following lights, and that was just a misunderstanding in general, not the fault of the timekeeper either. What I would suggest, though, is that you need to look at the ending of the speech. With the entertaining speech, what you're trying to do is possibly put a twist on it, lead us down the garden path, bring us astray a bit, and you certainly have the skill to do that. It would have been even more entertaining if you had managed to just put some little twist on the very end of your speech. But that was such an enjoyable 8.5 minutes. I love coming to Toastmasters, but to come and to hear Paul Gannon on song was fabulous. Thank you, Paul.